Voters in Sarasota, get ready to mark your votes on a crowded ballot next month. And if some leaders in their city get their way, you will have to vote on more candidates in the upcoming general election. ABC 7's Erica Jackson has more on the Change the Date initiative.
Right now, the city holds its election for the commission race every other spring, but each one costs taxpayers $100,000. Now it's up to you to decide if you want to continue voting in that spring election or have it coincide with federal, state, and county elections.
I'm very excited. I mean, the city commission is a platform to make a huge difference in the course of this city.
It was a victory worth celebrating for newly elected Commissioner Hagan Brody in May 2017. After a tough spring filled with canvassing, candidate forums, and 2 elections. But all that hard work for low voter turnout.
Americans are just conditioned to vote in November. That's just a fact. It's just a reality.
A group of city leaders, including Commissioner Brody, are pushing to move the race to November, which historically has a larger turnout with more minorities and younger voters showing up at the polls.
It's a much more representative electorate of what our community makeup actually is, and it's a broader makeup.
Leaders behind the Change the Date initiative say more than 26,000 voters in city limits cast their ballots in November 2016, a race fueled by the presidential election. But for the commission race 6 months later, Sarasota saw just a third of those voters.
Instead of asking them to come to our special election and spend $100,000 doing it, we should take this election to the voters.
According to Change the Date leaders, the city of Sarasota spends $100,000 every other year for the municipal election. Brody calls it a waste of taxpayer money, since voter turnout is historically low for those elections.
I think that the community disagrees wholeheartedly and will reject the idea that somehow less voters participating is a better thing for our democracy.
Maybe the voter turnout isn't as important as a lot of people think it is.
Former Sarasota Mayor Molly Cardamone says this isn't the first push to move the commission race to November. The last several failed, which is okay with Cardamone.
When we have it in March and runoff in the early spring, we have the focus of the entire county is on the city of Sarasota elections.
Cardamone fears the city commission race would get lost on a massive November ballot, filled with amendments, referendums, federal, state, and local races. She also worries about the timing.
We're not talking about a November election. We're also talking about an August primary.
Cardamone ran for city commission in spring 1993 and was able to build relationships with constituents in the months prior. If voters approve to move the election to the fall, the Supervisor of Elections office may have to also hold August elections, depending on the number of candidates. Cardamone argues that the August primary wouldn't give snowbirds enough time to learn about citywide issues, and says it's best to keep things how they are.
There's a lot of opportunity for the city commission candidates to have time to express their points of view, to attend forums, to have programs, visit condo associations, walk the neighborhoods.
After spending more than $500,000 to administer city elections in the last decade, many say it's time for a change.
It's just time for our community to move in this direction.
Sarasota may follow in the city of Bradenton's footsteps, which moved its municipal elections from odd to even number years in 2010. 14% of voters cast their ballots in 2009, and after voters approved the change, 71% came out to the polls in 2012 and 53% in 2014. Reporting in the newsroom, Erica Jackson, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.